This is the pursuit of anime, which is an aim to explore philosophical topics through the medium of anime, to create discussion and to enlighten ourselves. We are by no means professionals, and the content of this podcast is pure discussion meant to stimulate and exercise our minds and hopefully yours too. Now, today we have a different topic talking about why fan service works. And I know Teddy had this topic in mind, so I'll let him get into it and kind of open us up. But I just like to make a make my quick opener that I think the answer to why fan service works is quite apparent because the uh, the nature of fan service in and of itself is the idea that you're going to give the people what they want. So when you give the people what they want, it's going to work automatically. Now, of course, there's always trouble in paradise where there's people that they say, no, well, fan service is awful, and there's the naysayers. But I think at the core of it all, there's theoretically a fan service that will work for anybody because a fan service, what it is at the end of the day, is you giving the people what they want as a supplier. You know, the people want it. Like for example, anime fans, which is what we talk about mainly. The anime fans, they want to see cute anime girls and awesome like animated fights. And if you give them that, they're going to be very happy, even if the plot is not that good. But we're gonna get more into it. I'll let Teddy kind of get into it because I know you got a lot to get to. So open us up,
Yeah,
Teddy.
man. I'm just gonna be honest with you. It's just I feel like fan service is one of those um, techniques that people use in storytelling, or just like in general with different things, where it everybody likes it, right? Everybody enjoys it, but then when it becomes a problem is when you have some people who try to be uh, they try to have the high moral ground, right? They try to virtue signal others for enjoying something that they themselves behind closed doors enjoy as well. And that's where I came up with this. I wanted to discuss this with you because I mean, as you know, I spend sometimes like okay, so it happens in phases, right? I spend an unhealthy amount of time on Twitter sometimes, and I get to see a lot of discourse about different topics. And when it comes to fan service, I have seen a lot of people take a really radical stance on it, and they have their opinions, and they let them be known very loud that you are a waste of space for enjoying something that is done clearly for the purpose of you enjoying whatever it is and having a good time with it. And so, and for me, right, the biggest thing, the biggest, because as you said, it comes in different shapes, and it morphs depending on what they're trying to, like, what kind of crowd they're trying to appeal to. Like, for example, you know how we've been talking a lot about sports anime recently, right?
Yeah.
And um, if you're into sports, there are certain specific uh, um, they're like very particular things that you look for in those stories because if you do any sport whatsoever, you are familiar with the struggle that comes with trying to become better at it, or the frustrations that come with competing against other people, or the joy that comes from it too, just depending on how that plays out. So I look for those particular elements in in sports anime, and then when I find them, to me that's fan service because you are feeding me something that appeals to me, right, and is relatable to me. Like one of the reasons why you always bring up, like every time you bring up baby steps, and I go crazy is because I'm like, this is the epitome of sports anime fan service for me because it shows you like the painstaking process of breaking everything down and in spite of everything, just sticking to it and going through those steps because it's very frustrating. And when you learn how to play tennis, I know because I went through that, learning how to play tennis, and it's like there's a disconnect between kind of like you've gone bowling before, right?
Yeah.
How good are you?
Oh, not very good. Not good at any
Yeah.
sport that involves balls.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Bowling, I don't even call it is it a sport? I don't even
Yeah,
know
it's
that
a
you can
sport.
call it.
It's a sport. I mean, that's the thing. Like the definition of sport, like it's a sport. We don't
Oh,
consider it
okay.
a sport because it's not a it's we don't consider it a vigorous sport. It's kind of like a
Oh,
it's kind of like a man thing, like a patriarchy thing. You're like, oh well, that's like that's not like you know freaking football or boxing. So it's not as intense. So it's not a sport, but it's a sport.
yeah. Okay. I never looked at it that
It
way.
has its set of rules. They
Yeah.
train for it. It has its competitions. It's a sport.
Yeah, no, I get it. Okay, that makes sense. So basically, right, in bowling, you have this thing where there's a disconnect between what you think you're doing and what actually happens. Like you'd be like, okay, I'm swinging my arm this way, and so the ball should go that way depending on what I do. And then almost every single time it doesn't happen. It's like, hey, yo, what's going on right now?
You
And
start to
it's the
think it's rigged.
same. No, for real. You're like, no, something is not right because I know how I threw my arm. It should have gone this way. Why is it going in the gutter? It makes no sense. So that's why I'm like, you take that and you apply to sports, especially for me, tennis, right? And baby steps capture that really well. And
Yeah,
that was fan service to me, right? I was like, okay, that's great. You go to other things uh, like the typical shonen anime. It's like give me fights. I need some good either hand to hand combat or just like crazy bombastic fights. 'Cause that's what I'm here for. When you give that to me, you know, I appreciate that. Now, it's something that you said because it's true, but I've seen times when it hasn't held up, unfortunately, even though the potential was there. Now, as you said, sometimes even if the actual story itself is not that interesting, if the fan service is on point, people are going to show up. People are going to enjoy it, right? Because like, hey, at least I'm getting my my kicks with this. However, do you understand the pain when you see something and you know that you're supposed to be enjoying it, but for whatever reason you just don't? It's so frustrating because you're sitting there and you see that clearly they're giving you what you want, but for whatever reason it's not working because the glue that's bringing it all together isn't it's not quality glue. It's some Dollar Trees type stuff, right? Now, you remember God of High School, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I remember when we when we talked about it. You were like, "Oh, this is like at first we thought, oh, this might be it. This might be the one. It's gonna be a new like staple anime, right?" And then I
yeah,
forget if it was like 3 or 4 episodes in because we're both watching it at the same time, but then you kind of got a little bit further than I did. And I asked you, like, oh, how's it going, man? I'm about to catch up. And you told me straight up, don't do it to yourself. It's not worth it. I was like, but the fight, you're like, no, it's not good, man.
it was awful.
The plot, the pacing is absolutely abysmal. You're not gonna enjoy this. And I don't know about you, man. For me, as I get older, I take people's advice. Before, if somebody told me not to check something out, I might have been curious and be like, I wonder why they said that. But if you went out of your way to warn me after going through that much pain and suffering, out of respect for your pain and suffering, I won't check it out now.
Yeah,
So when somebody tells me, yeah, don't check, I'm like, hey, you know what? Say less. You got it. I'm not gonna do that to myself because you already did it to yourself for me. So I appreciate that. And I remember I think it was the last episode. Like I skipped everything because you told me don't bother because it's just a hot pack of mid. I was like, all right, let me just see because I think they only got like 12 episodes or something like that. So I went to watch the last episode. I was yawning the whole way through, man. I was like, what is this? It, like everything was so it was very hype. It was over the top and everything, but it just didn't connect with me at all. It's like I'm watching things happening and it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, I wanted to ask you, man, at what point does fan service stop working? Because it's you can do a lot with it, right? But is it get to a point where it's like, okay, you know what, this is not gonna work. And I'm gonna ask you for two types of fan services. The one is like shonen type, like fights and everything, and the other one is
Yeah.
salacious content.
Yeah.
So if it's like that, right?
Yeah.
What's the threshold? Where does
Well,
it
that's
stop
the
like
that's the
resonating?
that's the interesting thing. Like with me, I don't differentiate. I think like I said in the beginning, that's why I opened up in the beginning because I feel like I look at fan service in a very specific way where it's all just one thing. Fan service at the end of the day is just the author or whoever it is, like the supplier, the producer, whatever of whatever product, they're giving the people exactly what they want. So it's kind of interesting when you ask like when does it stop working? Because for me, in my mind, if it's true fan service, there's no such thing as stopping working. It's
Ooh.
either what the people want or what they don't want. So if you, for example, if you go into High School of the Dead, right? And what you want is just a pure zombie story, and you don't want to see big big honkers and like sniper bullets going through you know freaking high school freaking what was it, she's a kendo
Yeah.
practitioner, like she
Yeah.
had huge jugs and she's just in this high school outfit and you see the freaking bullet just going through her boobs. I remember watching
Mm.
that when I was in high school. I was like, oh my god, that was insane. It's still insane to this day. Like I don't
I
know
was about to say to this day.
where they came up with the idea to do that. I don't know how they storyboarded that. It's pretty insane. But high school that is definitely an experience. Watch it. It's pretty crazy. But back to the point. If you're trying to just watch a zombie show and you don't, you're not into that type of stuff. Let's say you're not attractive to big female jugs, you are not going to be pleased by that. That is fan service for somebody else, but it's not fan service to you because you don't find that attractive. You don't find that pleasing. Um,
Hmm.
what you might find pleasing is like let's say Yuri on Ice. Remember the two guys that they were on ice, they were
I
ice
have
skating.
made I've made a point to dodge that anime so hard because of what happens in it and the kind of relationships that take place in it. Because it's like I know it's done well. Like I've seen clips, I've seen some animation sequences. I know it's done well, but for me, I'm like, hey, with all due respect, this is my crowd.
It's not
This,
your
this
thing.
this it's not my thing. It's not what I don't move like that. But
Yeah.
hey, I respect the craft. I respect it.
Yeah, I know. I watched it when it came out. That was when I was on my serious. I wonder how young I was when that came out, but um, I was definitely still in my like watch every anime that comes out phase, hardcore. Um, I think I remember like liking it. It was pretty good. Um, and it did actually have a substantial plot. It wasn't just a fan service anime, like High School of the Dead sometimes was, especially during some episodes, the the bath scene in particular. But
Mm,
basically, the point is that fan service is individual. It takes form depending on the individual. So like what you might find favorable fan service wise, Teddy, I might not, and what I might find favorable fan service wise, you might not. So it kind of changes. So I don't think it ever stops. It just either it either begins or it doesn't. You know what I mean? If it quote unquote
Yeah.
stops, it's not that it stopped. It's just that it never began. It's never something that you were into. Look at Kill La Kill, for example. I think they were a great balancer of fan service and plot and story and everything, because Kill La Kill, nobody will tell you that that's a bad anime, right? It was a great time, really fun, substantial plot, great characters, really fun. And they had a lot of fan service, but it was actually
And
in a way woven into the plot, you know?
oh, I see the bar. Oh, I see what you did there. I see what you did there. Okay. You gonna slip. You thought you gonna get that one past me? No, man. No, but I'm glad you bring up Kid la Kill because let me ask you, when did you watch it?
I think when I was still in high school, and that's also another point to like highlight it too. Like a lot of this stuff, like the audience for anime is can be very young, and a lot of these characters are very young. So that's another factor that plays into it too. Where like if you're like a super uber adult getting into anime, or getting into like a medium that's
A
like
lot
it,
of it's not gonna connect with you.
it might not connect with you. You might see this and you're like, yo, this is like a freaking little girl. Like, what the hell am I watching here? This is creepy. And you just switch off, you know?
Yeah.
So
No.
that's the way it is too with fan service, where it can be off putting.
hmm No, I'm glad you brought this up because I watched Kill la Kill in more recent times. I want to say like last year or the year before, something like that. And it was cool, man. It was nice. I kind of enjoyed it, but I didn't think it was because I saw some people that were big fans of it and they really loved it and they would sing the praises of it. And for me, I just didn't see it like that. So it was interesting, but then I've had the reverse experience with Gurren Lagann because it's a similar feel. Like that story is a similar feel to Kill la Kill. But I watched that in my early days as an anime and manga fan. And when I watched it back then, I thought it was peak storytelling because Kamina to this day is one of the most iconic characters I ever met because he was so charismatic and at the same time inspirational with the way he moved around about in the world, the things that he said, the things that he did, right?
Yeah.
And so it had a very positive, lasting impact on me. But I've seen people who have been anime fans for a while now try to get into Gurren Lagann and watch it, and they're like, I can't get past episode 3. This is boring to me. Which in my mind, I'm thinking, how how are you having a like? It literally starts off high. They're underground. They're trying to go up to the like. What? There's no build up. It already gets on the ground running. It doesn't have like setup or anything. It just here we go. So why are you having a hard time? So it like I struggle with that, but then I understand because I had the flip experience with Kill la Kill. So now I'm like, okay, I get it. It's like you said, depending on when you get into it, it's going to make
And depending
a
on what
big
you
big
want,
difference. Yeah.
which is important too. Like where like why fan service works is it's why the why fan service works is within you. It's that's why it's so different. So like when that person watched Gurren Lagann, they wanted something out of it, right? Maybe they wanted that Jujutsu Kaisen episode 1 epic battle that's going to last
hmm
10 minutes, or like Fate Unlimited Blade Works, the first episode has
Ooh.
like a 20-minute battle sequence in the first episode, you know? Gurren Lagann doesn't
Yeah.
have that, you know, it's going to take its time to build up. And
I,
maybe Kill La
yeah.
Kill didn't have something that you wanted, you know? I know you, speaking to you, Teddy, you have a very specific like story that you like. You know, you have stories that you like, and you have like a type of way that you like them. Of course, it's not like you're closed minded. It's not like you don't like a wide variety of stories, but you
hmm
tend to like a specific mold of story, and those are the ones that you're going to be more geared towards liking. And Kill La Kill doesn't have that recipe, you know,
hmm
for you.
And it did though. It did at a point in time. So because when I watched it, I was like, oh, if I had watched this in my early days, I would have loved this.
Yeah.
It's the difference between somebody watching Black Clover now, who hasn't seen, or Jujutsu Kaisen now, who hasn't seen stuff like Naruto, One Piece, like all that stuff, and loving it, and us who've seen a lot, and then we look at Jujutsu Kaisen and it's like, why are you enjoying this, or how are you enjoying this so much? It's not that crazy. It's the same thing. So it's like,
I don't know. I don't know
it,
about that. I know a lot of people tell
what
me
do you
that
mean?
they're like, "Hey, if you never watched any of the old shonen, you would probably love Jujutsu Kaisen and you would be a little more crazy about Demon Slayer and all that." I don't agree. I think that I actually like would still have the same opinion. Um
You think so?
yeah, but that's just me. That's just me. But yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
it's interesting to think about.
yeah. I just think that's a like kind of a cop out because a lot of people are seeing like kind of a criticism for their favorite new shows and they want to just have a way to weasel out of that criticism without having a conversation about it. So they're just like, well, like you would love it just as much as me if this condition wasn't met, and it's just like, okay, that's like a very big hypothetical that like you can't prove, and
There's no way to prove it. Yeah.
you're just assuming a lot about me and the way I analyze stories. Like the way I look at stories is not dependent on your parameters. So
No, no, it's really not.
and it's the same thing with everybody. But
No, absolutely.
I know like for me like fan service like I I keep like harking on the whole thing like with High School of the Dead and stuff like that. I feel like if I watched it today, I would still find it pretty enjoyable. I would find the fan service like real funny. I think that the fact that the fan service in High School of the Dead is so bombastic
Mhm.
makes it really funny, to me, and I like
I
that.
agree. And you know what? I have to give you that because like how we just had this conversation about how using the hypothetical of if you'd seen it earlier, you would have enjoyed us or whatever.
Yeah.
So I had High School of the Dead and Prison School on my list to watch for the longest time because I was like, I feel like this is something I'm definitely going to enjoy. I already know I'm going to enjoy it. So I'm going to leave it on the back burner until, whenever I feel like I really want to watch it and I do. That was years ago. Like back when the scene that you're talking about with the boob physics became popular and became like the poster child of fan service and amazing animation, right? I had to say, I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch this. That was back when I was still, I want to say fairly newer to anime and manga in general. I had a fear when I watched it last year that I was not gonna enjoy it as much as I thought I would anymore because how much time has passed, how many other anime and manga I experienced by that time. When I tell you, I started watching High School of the Dead. I'm like, yo, what is going on? Like, this is so much fun. I can't believe it. Like, it's it, it's actually so good. Beyond just, I mean, the fan service definitely helps. Like, let's be honest. Like that it's very enjoyable to anybody who wants to watch it. Do not watch it in public. I promise you, people are gonna look at you funny if you do because it's just like too many scenes in there. You just can't. Like, don't do that to yourself. But it was a mixture of they really caught which is something that horror anime does or zombie stories in anime they do very well. They capture the horror and the tension that comes with that so well. Like I don't know how your experience has been, but for me, it's like they just almost never miss with the whole zombie thing where it works every time. Like I get the feels of jump scares and the fear and the tension that comes with a zombie apocalypse coming down on people.
Yeah.
And with High School of the Dead, they do that so well. So if that's your kind of if horror is what gets your is your kind of fan service, you're gonna get that. And of course, the designs. You know exactly what I'm talking about, female designs. If that's what you like, they have that too. And it is funny as hell. So if you're looking for comedy, if that's the fan service that appeals to you, they have that as well. I saw a clip the other day on TikTok where he slapped the main girl, like the MC, he slapped the main girl. And dude was behind him, like, dude, why are you doing this? Why'd you slap her? He's like, it was a preemptive strike because she was about to panic, so I had to slap her to confuse her. So she don't like the way they set up. It's so hilarious. It's so funny. So like, it's a great recommendation. And yeah. So going back to that point you made earlier, it's true. Like it's I understand the argument of the hypothetical of maybe in different times you may have enjoyed something, but this is proof that that's not always the case because I held off on that for the longest time, and the fan service in that held up because that was the main thing. I didn't even know about the story. I just saw that animation with the boobs and the bullet going between. Like that's all I saw. I was like, yo, I don't even know what the story is, but I will watch it. Like that's the power of fan service. Like you just see a clip, and that clip alone can sell you on a whole story. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's amazing.
Well, that's the
So.
thing. Like, I feel like people bring these external factors into like the judgment of how you judge stories, but at the end of the day, I would say it's not the time, but it's the individual. It's you that affects how you judge a story. Like um that yeah. I mean, I can't think of another way to put it. It's not the time. It's not the time that has passed. It's not the specific point in time. It's you. It's just you. There's nothing else
Mhm.
but you. Like the time can affect you, but at the end of the day, you're still you. Now, of course, you can
Yeah.
change the way you judge a story through time, but
Hmm.
like I know myself, I definitely I feel like I've developed the way that I look at stories throughout time. Like I feel like I definitely enjoyed anime more. Maybe not more. I was super into, like, it was the only thing I enjoyed in life, for a while. When I first discovered anime, I was like freaking. What was I? I think it was still in middle school, or
Hmm.
even closer to elementary school. So like, life was just school. Drink my cup of orange juice, eat some food, and pop in Naruto on my DVR, and I filled up the whole DVR with Naruto. That's something that I definitely wouldn't do now for Naruto, but it's something that I would do for something else, that I do enjoy now. So it's just it's not that anything has really changed drastically. It's just more developed and shaped up to kind of match who I am now. And I'm sure it's the same for you and everybody else.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was a time when I really initially got into anime, I thought it was um, the epitome of storytelling, but because there's so many elements that come together that, mind you, I wasn't even aware of back then that I just learned about more over time. Where I thought that the combination of all these elements taken to a certain level creates a kind of story that the appeal of which you cannot replicate in any other medium, whether it be movies, TV shows, books, whatever, because it's a combination of the art, the voice acting, and the music choices that they make. Like something that I feel people don't always notice right away. I think it's becoming more prominent now with social media, but I feel our generation or earlier generations, the music plays so much in how much you enjoy a story because, um, and I dare say it's another form of fan service. Even if you don't look for it necessarily, it's something. It's like getting something that you didn't know you needed, until you get it. You're like, oh, this is actually really nice.
Yeah,
One of the reasons we love Bleach so much, it may have the best OST in anime.
yeah, it definitely might.
I'm thinking of any other ones that might measure up because I know there are a few that have singular tracks that are really good. Like One Punch Man has some OSTs that are really good. You Say Run from My Hero, each peak. Like in terms of just height of hype, this is not much that measures up to it. But Bleach, oh, listen, you had a soundtrack for every different types of moments. Like when a really powerful individual pulls up, you remember that sound that plays. I can't even replicate it, but I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Like I don't know what kind of instrument they use. It's like a chord instrument, I think, and it just like you know what time it is when Ichigo's theme music comes on. You know what time it is. Like it just it adds so much to the experience, and I think it's a more subtle kind of fan service, but you definitely you are servicing the fans with that kind of music. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like it adds so much to the experience. So for the
yeah,
longest time I felt like, oh, this is this cannot be replicated anywhere. Like only anime does it like this.
yeah. You'd be surprised how much like fan service like stems, like how deep it goes, even outside of anime. Like I know that recently there's been a lot of the monster verse movies, right? Like Godzilla, King Kong.
Yeah.
Um, if you look in the comments of those like fights, search up like Godzilla versus King Kong and look in the comments, and people are just like raving about like, oh man, like, did you hear how Godzilla just growled? Did you see how he smiled at the camera and gave a little wink? Oh my god, when he did that, I was just like, I almost like, I almost had an orgasm like just watching that. And I'm just reading it and like being outside of the fan reading that, I'm like, you people are mental. You people have
Y'all are
lost your
sick.
you've lost your minds. You officially lost your minds. Like this is it. It's over. Um, but that is a form of fan service that the director of the movie placed into that film because they know that Godzilla fans in America at least are uh, are of that disposition to enjoy, growls, grumbles, stomps, winks, smiles from monsters. They're basically furries. They don't want to admit it, but they're furries. Um, furry.
Hey
That's
yo,
that's
what are we
another
doing?
that's another type of fan service. The furries. There's a lot of people that they get great joy when they see a furry character in an anime. For example, a lot of people were happy when we went to Zoe in One Piece. When they started seeing Carrot, they're like, "Oh, Nami, Robin, they didn't do it for me, but now we got Carrot. It's over. Now this is my kind of story. It's my time to shine."
Oh,
So they come
hey,
out of the
listen,
woodworks. Um,
those are deviants.
this is a deviance. Oh my god! Like I know the whole lolly freaking subculture in the anime, which is disgusting. I'm not gonna lie. I will never change my stance on that. I think that you people are weirdos, but more than just weirdos. But
Nasty
anyways,
word.
yeah, you're that's a whole nother thing. And that's one of the things that for me is a fan service that really doesn't work for me. When I see like a character that is obviously underaged in anime and they're trying to pass like they're trying to like show you like sexualize her, like basically trying to show you sexual scenes of that said character. I just click off or I fast forward or I just don't even watch the anime, especially if it's an anime that's basically predicated around that. I know for me, I forgot which anime it was, but there it was some type of shonen, and they kept trying to push this character, and I was just like, no, I'm just not. I just can't do this anymore. I ended up dropping it.
I
So
understand. I
yeah, like
understand.
there's
This
examples
is
of
it.
like fan service not working for everything, and I think there has to be a good balance of fan service and plot to work with people. You can't just be. I know there's this concept that I think mostly exists in anime. I don't know if it exists elsewhere, but there's this concept of fan service specific anime. So you know how like most anime is like plot driven. It's to tell a story. The director's trying
Yeah.
to say something. There's some anime that are literally just there for fan service. Literally,
Mhm.
that's all it is. Um,
Yeah, yeah. What's the name? Oh my God, Bubble. Bubble
Bubble.
was like that. The movie that
Oh
Gossen
hell
really
yeah,
wanted us to watch.
yeah,
That's the feeling that I got. I was like, okay, so they wanted to, mind you, I'm not gonna say flex pretty animation because it wasn't consistent, but they wanted to flex some pretty animation for parkour, and they needed an excuse for a whole movie about it, so they created that narrative. But the whole purpose of it was just the parkour, and I think it was to appeal to that crowd. So they're like, we're gonna do something for you guys, but they've forsaken the telling a genuine story part because that was not even the story they were trying to tell. That was just an excuse, right? That was a vehicle for them to push the parkour and the animation. So I think that's like a good example of that.
yeah, yeah. I think Bubble is actually like a really good example of like I don't know what they were like. It almost feels like
Right?
they wrote the script in Chat GPT. You know, like it's just
And
like
no,
yo, make me a script about like freaking parkour, love, and fighting in
it's
a
like you throw a
post-apocalyptic
bunch
world.
of random ingredients in a pot and hope for the best.
Yeah, and there's no substance to the plot. There's no trajectory for the plot either. It's directionless. It's just kind of a bunch of random events happening for no reason, just to set
Hmm.
up these. I'm not gonna lie, like their parkour sequences. Our friend who's into parkour, he was raving about this anime, and we watched it. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna claim that I'm a parkour expert, but I've seen a lot of parkour videos on YouTube, and I even did it once or twice in high school with some parkour friends. Never got too into it, but I'm aware of what parkour is, and I've seen it. I know what good parkour looks like, and that parkour was. I almost fell asleep honestly watching the parkour. Like it was so awful. The parkour wasn't even good, which got me even more pissed. So
It's
this
like
is the
you're gonna
thing.
bring me in for this, and you're still not gonna feed me. That's insane.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. It's just absolutely ridiculous, and I think that's an example of fan service that just didn't work for us
Hey,
because it
listen,
wasn't
man.
for us.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. And I'm gonna be honest, man. You are a kinder man than I am. You said you almost fell asleep. I passed out. I was watching this thing and I passed out a couple of times. And mind you, it was dangerous too because I was laying down on my back and holding up my laptop. If you know anything about that position, you know it's a very compromising position to fall asleep into
Yeah,
because if you're not careful, that you getting your head top split in half, right?
yeah,
And I was like, but that's how boring it was. That the boredom of it was more powerful than the danger that would come from the laptop dropping on my face. It
yeah,
was that bad. Like I was like, okay, you know what? This is enough. I mean he knows it too. We gave him a lot of crap for it. And it's like, listen, give and how long was it again? Like an
like
hour and a half?
I think a little more than an hour and a half, like 140. You know,
Give me my hour and a half back, man. Like I I could have watched so much
and they
stuff.
started singing. The worst part is when they started singing. Oh my god, they were just kept singing and singing, and it was like, bro, like it was ridiculous. It was like a
That's
high school talent
yeah,
show singing. You know?
no, for real. Like that's the part that actually woke me back up because I was so mad. I was so upset. I'm like, no, no. What are we doing right now? I'm not. I don't want to hear this.
Yeah,
Like, and now because you told me about what should we call it, Princess Mononoke,
yeah,
and I watched it, and I can't lie, it's gas. I
I
was I
see.
was I was I was put because and it's 2 hours and it didn't feel like it because it's I mean Hayao Miyazaki he knows what he does, right? And there's a reason why his work is acclaimed and praised as much as it because it's amazing, it's gorgeous, like the
Yeah,
animation, the sceneries, the different shots, the fights, the action, like
Yeah.
From a fan service perspective, it depending on what appeals to you or like what you're trying to get out of it, it's amazing. And
Yeah.
this is it's a there's a part of my soul that was fed from Mononoke from a fan service standpoint because I love gorgeous women, right? I love pretty women. I love nicely designed women, but I also love strong, independent women, competent women that can take charge and make decisions that move stories forward or that move people around them, right?
Yeah.
Princess Mononoke is the perfect example of that because that boss lady that had the iron forging uh, uh, village
Yeah.
and was employing all these women that were hardworking, but they were also fun. They were it, they actually had personality, charisma, and she was the most charismatic of all of them, and she could fight. And when she fought against the wolf girl, like I saw that scene, I was like, what am I watching right now? Like I thought because when I saw people talk about Princess Mononoke and uh, uh, try to sell me on it, they never use what will actually sell me on it. They always said stuff like, "Oh yeah, like you need to watch it. It's really pretty." It's like I think you're the only one who told me if I know you well, Ted, you're gonna like this. That spoke to me because like that appealed to the fan service aspect of storytelling for me. It was just like if I recollect correctly and I know this is what you like, you're gonna enjoy this. So that clicks with me because you're telling me I know what you're into, and based on what I know about you that you're into, you're gonna like this. So when I watched it, I was like, this man better not have lied to me because you know I'm gonna give it to you. I'm
Yeah.
gonna give it to you. If you lied to me, so I started watching it, and I was skeptical. But from the first scene, like the action from like, oh my god, like that boar that got
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
possessed
That
by
was
the
infected.
demon,
Yeah.
yeah, like the whole action sequence was insane. I was not ready for that. I'm like, why is it so well choreographed and why does it look so gorgeous?
Yeah.
It made no
I
sense.
knew.
And it's a Hayao Miyazaki movie, so I was not expecting that at all. So
Yeah, I knew that for you, Princess Mononoke would be the one, probably your favorite one. For me, it's definitely one of my favorites, if not my favorite.
it's gas. It's not my favorite yet, but it's gas.
It's like it because the thing is, it's like it's the one like Miyazaki film that balances like a high action plot with
Hmm.
also his style.
Yeah.
Now, that seems to be something more geared towards you, where you love shonen, you like more like a high octane kind of like more linear plot, but still with a lot of depth to it. Me, I like stuff like Spirited Away, Ponyo, Kiki's Delivery Service. I'm definitely well content to just sit there and watch characters walk around.
A
Um,
house moving castle.
yeah, Hell's Moving Castle as well too. Um, I just don't want like a linear plot. I want something more abstract. I want to feel like I just walked into the Louvre, the Louvre Museum, the art museum of like film. I just walked into something very abstract, something different, something weird out there. And that's why I like
It's
really love those movies.
it's interesting because my top two anime movies, one of them is definitely like, well, I don't want to say like it's shonen because it has amazing fights, but they're not done in the shonen type of way. And then the other one has nothing to do with it whatsoever. Like my top one movie is The Sword of the Stranger.
Oh yeah, I
It
seen that
is
one.
listen, I've been doing a really great job of not cussing on this podcast. I almost did just now because that movie resonates with me on such a level. The second one is A Silent Voice.
Yeah.
That one it moved me in ways that I did not expect. It made me like those experiences where every emotional note hits When you're supposed to feel sad, you feel sad. When you're supposed to feel happy, you feel happy, and so on and so forth. I love when that happens.
Yeah.
To me, that's another sign of like not only just great storytelling, but great fan service as well, because you're appealing to people's emotions and you're feeding them and like because let's be honest, right? Part of the human experience is feeling maybe happy right now, but even being sad, it's part of the human experience. Sometimes you need to feel sad. Like it's a balance, right? It's not a bad thing. It's just the human nature. That's how it goes. You can't
Yeah.
just be happy all the time. It's just not possible. Even if you want to be, you won't be because that's just not part of the nature of being a human being. So with stories, when they do that, when they play around with those emotions, they're able to do the the whole spectrum well. It's amazing. It is nothing more frustrating to me when you see something where you're supposed to feel sad and
Yeah.
you can tell that the author is going out of their way to make you feel sad, but it just doesn't resonate with you. It doesn't
Yeah.
click. You're like, nah, that doesn't work. That's very frustrating to me. But then the opposite it's an amazing experience. And A Silent Voice was like that for me. When
Yeah.
I watched that movie, I sat up. I was like, I want to strangle this kid. Why is he doing this? Like, there's no, and then, going through the whole journey of him trying to repent for what he did as a kid. Amazing. I'm getting chills right now just talking about it, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that movie was a good. I remember I read the manga as it was coming out.
oh, you did? There was a manga for it?
Yeah, it was originally a manga. I mean,
Oh, I didn't know.
most of these things originally start off as mangas, but I mean, it's different now because it's a bigger industry. So now you're getting a lot of more like anime only and movie only stuff that's actually of good quality. Such wasn't the case
I
much long
thought
ago.
all the,
But yeah,
I
yeah,
thought all the Hayao Miyazaki movies were exclusively like originals.
yeah. But
I
that's
didn't,
different. That's like one of the goats.
wow. So we gonna do okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
you're not
different.
wrong.
That's
You're not
completely
wrong.
different. Like that's like a different
Yeah.
stratosphere from like movies like that. You know what I'm
Cause,
saying?
cause
Like
that's what he does. Yeah, like that's his expertise.
that's
Yeah,
what he
that
does. Yeah,
is.
yeah, 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 exactly. Like the
Yeah,
for
that
like a silent voice stuff like that, and like other like animated movies directors like they get directors that like they've worked on other like animated movie adaptations that usually. But you have like for movie specific only anime stuff, you have movie specific only anime directors like Mamoru Hosoda. He made Wolf Children. What was it? Bell, I think recently, and another one that was like really, I think Paprika. No, maybe not Paprika, but you know what I mean. Satoshi Kon,
mhm.
A Perfect Blue. Uh,
Oh, Perfect Blue. Yeah, that's right. Right.
that one. I think he did Paprika and the one with the gangsters on Christmas. Like that's all like for the most part anime only. But
Mm.
anyways, I want to end on this point that I was just thinking about. Like, um, I know that like fan service is different for everybody, but I also think that fan service is different for every like kind of series. I'd say for myself, or like for example, I'll go into a Hayao Miyazaki film, and I'm a fan of Miyazaki, right? So when I
Yeah.
go, I as a fan from his movies, I am I definitely say I'm serviced by the quality of his animation. If he puts in some type of otherworldly creature, I'm happy. If he puts in, like his iconic, kind of mellow but still like still really awesome soundtracks, I'm happy. For
Hmm.
example, then I'll go to I forget the director of Your Name. Uh, Makoto Shinkai, I
Ooh.
think. Makoto Shinkai. If I
How
go
do you
to
know
his
this?
movies, I go into Your Name. Not a fan. Then I become a fan by Your Name, right? And Your Name has awesome, like, kind of, anime opening sequences, like, teenage coming of age stories, like where like there's just music playing and the characters just like going through life. That was what a lot of Your Name was, and it was awesome. Like the rock music was awesome in it. Like it was like indie rock uh, vibes. I go into that and I love it, and I see his next movie and I'm like, this has to be in that. If it's not in that, I'm not happy. You know what I mean? So that's like a fan service for me, and such was the case in Weathering with You. Um, the plot wasn't as good as Your Name, and there were no goddamn music kind of montages. So I was not happy with that. Um, Mamoru Hosoda also, he has these kind of almost collage like sequences in his filmmaking that if I don't get them in his films, I don't like them. And he came out
Mhm.
with Bell recently where the plot wasn't that great, but he did have an amazing opening sequence. He's known for his opening sequences, almost like Up, you know, where it's like a
Yeah,
collage at the beginning of the movie, just like a 10-minute sequence that like will take you through a whole story before the story even starts. And he did that with Wolf Children, and he did that with Belle. And even though Belle was not nearly as good as Wolf Children, I still loved Belle just for that. It was amazingly animated. It had that touch of him, and I love it. You know, so it's
yeah,
kind of that thing. Even with music, you expect a certain sound from, let's say, like whoever's out now, Post Malone, whatever, The Weekend, whatever, what have you, you know. And if you don't get that sound, you're not gonna feel serviced. You know, if you don't hear 21 dropping bars, if you hear him start singing, you don't feel serviced as a fan. So that's the thing I think too that's interesting about fan service is that it can not only change from person to person, but even within a person, Teddy, like what you might not like in one series, you might not say, "Nah, I don't even like that. I don't like action sequences." When you in like a Miyazaki film, you're like, "Nah, I'm cool. I don't even need an action sequence." Like Spirited Away was 10 out of 10 for me, right? You love that. But then when you go to Bleach, you're like, "Yo, if I'm not getting an action sequence, this thing is putting me to sleep. We need some. We need a Bankai. Like, show me a Bankai. Show me a Hado number fucking 1009.9. You know."
yeah.
So that's the thing. It can change even from series to series, from content to content. But
No,
that
that's
was my
awesome.
closing thoughts. I don't know if you have anything.
No, I mean, I feel like we did the rounds. Like that's a perfect way to end on this topic, and I'm glad we got to talk about it as much as we did. As extensive of a way as we did.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna stop being a fan, right, of fan service because, like you said, if it's what appeals to you, it will 9 times out of 10 it will work, right? It will take some like, abysmal storytelling for it not to work. So I think that's pretty much what it is, man. And I think at some point I do want to do a little something, but that's going to be like we're going to plan that properly. Like we're gonna sit down, go through a list of different characters that from a fan service perspective we feel like they do what they need to do well. And it doesn't have to just be, hotly designed female characters. It could be just characters that are supposed to embody a certain feel, a certain atmosphere, like a certain vibe, and they do a great job of delivering that. Like, I don't know, it's like
Yeah.
Blackbeard, for example, from One Piece. Like, I get that, you know, evil grittiness from that dude, but things of that nature. So, um, I have an idea for it, and we'll talk more about it in details, and it'll be a good time, it'll be a great time.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, man, outside of that, sheesh, I'm glad we got to talk about this, and yeah, we'll see you on the next one, man.
Yeah, for sure. That we will. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're feel so inclined to. And we will catch you on the next one, as Study just said. Peace.
Peace.